What's good, everybody? Generate Talent back again here. And today we're going to be talking about the Dynasty Fantasy wide receiver 1 through 4. You see CeeDee Lamb's currently at 5. That was decided in the last video. But when we're talking about 1 through 4, we're talking about different animals here. And when we're talking about number 4, this is no disrespect to this guy because this is the guy that we could say is probably the most consistent on this list. And that's wide receiver 3 from the last 3 years. You can count on it, book it. He's going to give you those elite wide receiver 3 rankings. But we have him at number 4 today. At 26 years old, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra, former Amon-Ra, whose father is a Mr. Universe, right? A big bodybuilder. Amon-Ra doesn't miss games. Let me pull this up so you guys can kind of see what we're talking about here. This is really impressive. This is Amon-Ra's 4 years here. And I'm going to drop Amon-Ra down just for the simple fact of we're going to clip this here. So with Amon-Ra, you see he's playing in every game. He's missed one game in the last 4 years. And just the level of consistency is really crazy. With Amon-Ra, you see the level of consistency is not just in points, but also in games played. Even last year, he was supposed to miss a game because he had an injury on Sunday. The game was going to be on Thursday. This was in the fantasy playoffs, stressing me out. I was playing against Amon-Ra, and of course he played. Just before the field, they said the odds weren't very good that he was going to play, and sure enough, he played. He put a nice number out there, too, which had me a little shook. But here we go. In 2025, Amon-Ra finished at wide receiver 3, which is consistent with his 24 and 23 seasons. He finished on 1,400 receiving yards on 117 receptions and 172 targets in this potent Detroit Lions offense. Now, since Ben Johnson left, a lot of things changed, but Amon-Ra's consistency did not. You even see with the touchdowns, it's 11, it's 12, it's 10. We know what we're getting out of this guy, and for some reason, us fantasy guys, most of us are gamblers, and if we know what we're going to get, we always want to chase what's going to be next instead of just taking what's going to be proven and consistent year in and year out. That's Amon-Ra coming in at number 4. I'm not sure why we do this, but we're giving this guy 3 other players that are ahead of him when he just consistently does the same thing. You know what you're going to get. I think most of us, if you told us our pillar on offense is going to be number 3 every year, we're happy with that, right? The number 1 receiver seasons don't happen all the time, back to back to back. You'll even see with Ja'Marr Chase, that's not something consistently that occurs. So to constantly have 3s, I think we'll take that. Let me digress here. So St. Brown coming in at number 4. He's a guy we love, but in terms of the higher potential, we got guys up there with higher potential. Number 3, this is your fantasy 1 from last year, but it's also the guy you see banging on the UFC cage and stuff in the offseason, hopping out of vans drunk and just looking real wild out there in the offseason. He is dating some of the nicest Hollywood actresses and different things around. Puka Nacua is LA now. Now with that, a couple things that I'm not really sold on here. We have a 25-year-old receiver. He does have that injury-prone tag. If we look at his stats in the NFL, maybe you don't feel like that so much. He is in the tent a lot. But also in college, he was an injury-prone receiver. I think everyone could attest to that. So I just feel like as he gets older, that kind of resurfaces. He's still a great elite receiver. Let's go into it. Last year, wide receiver 1 on 375 PPR, right? On 166 targets, 130 receptions, 1,700 yards, and 10 total touchdowns. But the thing that should highlight here, that snap percentage of 70%. Because the Rams get so creative, they do the 2-3 tight end sets. Sometimes Nacua is not on the field due to injuries. Sometimes it's scheming from Sean McVay, just trying to be creative, getting Mumfield in there or different guys in there to show that it's not a one-man band here. But when it comes to elite receivers, I know he finished at number 1 last year, but that 70% snap share, I just don't think that's going to keep happening. For elite receivers, you got to be on the field to make the plays. He did. He capitalized on the 70%, but I don't think that is going to be able to be repeated. So if he's continuing on 70% of snaps, I don't think we see receiver 1 seasons, at least overall, still in that top 5 for sure. But that's tough to do on a small percentage. So Puka really showed out last year. Prior to that, in 24, his second year, he finished as the 26th ranked receiver. He missed 6 games. So and just finished under 1,000 yards on 3 touchdowns. So let's not pretend like it's been all rainbows for Nacua here. There have been 1 out of 3 years that was plagued by injury, and at wide receiver 26, we can get those way later in the draft. So looking at Puka Nacua, I think he's a top 3 elite receiver. I think his ceiling is probably the highest out of everyone's, but with all of the variables, the off-season stuff, the constant in the spotlight, whether it was doing something with the streamer that was deemed like anti-Semitic. It's just not a guy. I don't like the guys that are in the spotlight for the wrong reasons, and so far Puka this offseason has found a way to stay in the spotlight, just doing wild stuff, and us questioning if Antonio Brown's CTE is contagious. So if you're Cam Scattaboo, you don't believe CTE is even real. So somewhere along those lines, we find Puka Nacua. I'm going to drop him down. That's number 3. This one has been pretty tough to decide, but don't hate me. And I know this probably backfires, but for right now, for 26, I got Ja'Marr Chase at wide receiver 2. Now, with wide receiver 2, Ja'Marr Chase is on that graphic that we've shown a couple times here, where there's 5 players consistently with 5,000-plus yards receiving since 2021. That consists of 3 players. That's CeeDee Lamb, who was number 5, Jefferson, who was number 6, and number 2, Ja'Marr Chase on our list, and that's it. So when we're talking about consistency, Chase is that guy too. We're going to bring up his stats. He's actually had a couple sporadic seasons. We know that he kind of gets hurt when Burrow leaves the field, not dramatically, but it does affect him. I mean, when we had to use Joe Flacco, Chase was still getting peppered, but we'd much rather have Joe Burrow in there. So now when we look, Ja'Marr Chase, this is a snap share we should see out of an elite receiver. 96%, 93%. Finished as wide receiver 4 last year. Finished as wide receiver 1 in 2024. 185 targets, 175 targets. This is what elite looks like. Okay, on 125 receptions plus, he finished with 17 touchdowns in 24. That was obviously the outlier in his number 1 fantasy season. His other 3 seasons, 8, 7, 9. Okay, so you're probably going to get a 1,500-yard receiver with 10 touchdown potential. That's good enough for wide receiver 2. Something exciting. One of the best offenses in sports. We love having Ja'Marr Chase here. There's just one thing I like a little bit better than what we're getting from Ja'Marr Chase and the potential at age 26. So let me slide Ja'Marr Chase in at 2. Coming in at number 1, this is a guy I plucked early on, so it could be a bias here. In a majority of my leagues, he was someone I had to get, trading draft picks, different things, prior to his big season when he was rocking the broken elbow. We'll bring that up and we'll talk about that because a lot of people weren't JSN truthers from the beginning. And with JSN, can this bring up for me? Okay, I'm going to drop him down just for the time being. Okay, and with JSN, we had a wide receiver 2 season last year. On an 80% snap share, 163 targets, 120 receptions on almost 1,800 receiving yards, which led the league, I'm pretty sure there. Didn't quite touch the 2K that people envisioned him getting when he was on pace middle of the season. It did slow down a little bit, but season ending with the Super Bowl, I'd say he's happy regardless. And he just got his extension, so all wheels up for JSN. He finished with 10 touchdowns, which is reasonable, right? It wasn't that outlier season with Ja'Marr Chase in 17 total touchdowns. It shows that JSN hasn't missed a game for the Seahawks, which is crazy. 17 games played and 23 through 25. But if you remember in his 23 season, he was playing with like a shattered elbow, and he was out there pretty much in a cast or just banged up. People were saying JSN wasn't that guy. Being the first receiver off the board, it was definitely hated on. But now we see he is that Ohio State receiver that had that crazy Rose Bowl game. He is supposed to be elite. His brother's in the MLB, so we know there's the talent tree in the family too. I always love to see with Jordan Tyson. But with JSN here, he's my number 1 Dynasty Fantasy receiver moving forward, just for the simple fact I have a couple years on Chase here at 24 years old, but also I think he's QB-proof. And when Sam Darnold gets out of there, I don't think there's going to be a huge drop-off because JSN does it with his route running. He does it with his receiving. I don't think that's going to be as big of a drop-off as when Stafford leaves Nakua or when Burrow, if he ever leaves Chase. He won't, right? He's college, pro, all that stuff. But I think JSN is the most QB-proof here. He is my number one wide receiver moving forward until I see something younger with the same amount of talent, which there might not be. This guy's special. This guy's a unicorn. Look up his stats from the Pro Bowl. Just insane. Had like 17 receptions. Real freaky stuff. And that's where this guy makes it too. This is my type of receiver where he's going to make his kill on receptions, not off big plays, right? A little bit of both, but he'll break out with like 9 receptions in a game. And that's great because even if he has 9 receptions for 60 yards, I'm getting PPR. He's just very safe option. I don't think there's going to be much fluctuation here. I think he's going to be in the top 3 receivers for a long period of time here, at least another 5 years, take him almost to his 30th season. So JSN, definitely my number one on this list. Let me break this down. I got to get a picture of my guys as this changes. But for right now, Generate Talent, these are my top 5 receivers going into Dynasty Fantasy Football 2026 and beyond. I'd much rather have JSN and Ja'Marr Chase than any of the 3 beneath them. I just think depending on what your window is, JSN doesn't really matter. You could be a contender. You could be a rebuilder. JSN's perfect for both. Ja'Marr Chase more on that contender side. Puka Nacua could go for both as well. If I'm a rebuilder, I'm moving Brown. I'm moving CeeDee Lamb. And I'm trying to get something younger plus to improve my team. But for right now, depending on what you got, I love JSN as the number one receiver moving forward. Ja'Marr Chase is just in the back seat, just right behind him. Either one could work, but I'm taking the younger guy. Give me the extra 2 years with the no target competition so far in Seattle. I don't think Rashid Shaheed really can hold a light to this guy. I think he's more of a return man, to be honest. I think the Saints had to use him because they had nobody else. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what he's shown us in Seattle so far too. But thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. I know this list is going to cause some anxiety for some people. You're going to be looking at your assets maybe a little bit differently, but I think JSN is the elite option. We could debate if we'd rather have JSN or the top option at running back soon, so be ready for that one. Generate Talent, I appreciate you guys watching. Peace.